Pastor Brett, thank you for meeting with me. This is for my leadership course, so we're going to talk a little bit about leadership.
Okay.
So I hope you don't mind if I pick your brain.
Sure thing, Steve.
First of all, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, my name is Pastor Brett Hill, and I am the pastor of All Saints Lutheran Church. It just so happens that I was recently ordained and installed. I spent my time in seminary at Lutheran Seminary, started in 2021 in the fall. This is actually, we'll call it a second career, but it's really a third career for me. I was a medic and a paratrooper and a flight medic in the Army, and then I went into nursing when I got out of the Army and worked in nursing in various fields for about 24 years. I was in emergency and critical care medicine, and then I did some management work, some change management, process improvement, and I learned a lot of lessons and also had a lot of missteps along the way. And so those are things I can bring to share with you and with everyone else here. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm glad one of those missteps didn't occur when you were jumping out of an airplane.
No, fortunately, it's not a very forgiving process.
Right.
Yeah.
God is good.
Amen.
Well, first of all, let me tell you that how significant you've been to me as a leader, as a mentor. We met about 3 years ago now, I believe.
Yeah.
I came to All Saints Lutheran just starting the seminary process while you were just about wrapping yours up. So your leadership of accompaniment, coming alongside me, being my friend, my mentor, somebody I could talk to, someone who would listen to my concerns, my fears, my doubts, and just walk me through that was a joy and irreplaceable to me. So thank you for being that for me.
And thank you for being there. It's been a pleasure to walk alongside you, and I'm so proud of you.
So in that light, who has been a mentor, a leader for you in your life?
I would say three people stand in mind for various reasons. My grandfather, although I didn't know it at the time, was a very strong leader. And he was an example of a quiet strength type of leadership. He didn't say a lot of words, but when he spoke, people listened. And he was also influential to me as a child and a great role model for me to aspire to. He had been a bomber pilot in World War II and was highly decorated as well for his skill and courage. I was in the Army, and there's another leader, Captain Jeffrey Ryan was one of my company commanders, and I just always admired him for his calm approach, his incredible proficiency and skill that he showed not only in his job but in his leadership, and also he was genuinely concerned about the people under his command. He knew them all by name and treated everyone with dignity and respect, even when people screwed up, and it happened from time to time. And the last example of leadership, especially in the as a pastor, was for someone you and I both know, Pastor Ed Benaway, who was the former bishop of the Florida Bahamas Synod and was our interim pastor here at All Saints Lutheran Church for about 2.5 years. And just watching him work as the pastor of this congregation was really like watching a master class.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yes, Pastor Benaway's one of the top leaders on my list as well.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Great guy.
That almost ties into, so Benaway was one of the interims during our interim period here at All Saints, and that was a long period. So a couple pastors and leaders had to take on that stewardship role before we finally got the opportunity to call you here. Our church has gone through a liminal space, a transition, not the end, not the beginning, but somewhere right in the middle. And now we are almost exiting that and starting a new time with you as our leader and as our shepherd. How does the church, All Saints, and the church globally navigate through those liminal spaces, and what can we do in those times?
Those liminal spaces, I think, can be spaces and times of discomfort and doubt, and at the same time, they can be times of incredible beauty and growth. And a big part of that as a leader is to be able to comfort and assure and reassure people in those periods of doubt. And then as far as also, we need to be able to express as leaders where that growth may lead us.
Yeah.
For example, one of the things that I became painfully aware of when I was here is that no one really knew what our mission was. I asked people, what's our mission statement? I don't know. Where can you find it? I don't know.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay, well then we need to do something about that. So I formed a small ad hoc committee. We started doing a review of mission statement, and we came up with something that was a little more appropriate to where we are today. So our mission statement is, we are an inviting community of faith called by God to share the gospel and make disciples for Christ. And what I really love about that, and that mission will lead to our vision, but what I really love about that is it's really getting back to basics of what we need to be as Christians. We need to invite people in, we need to share the gospel with them and with the world, and we need to make disciples for Christ. So as leaders, the mission is very important to understand that and to be able to craft that into a vision for people to be able to go toward, and to be their guiding light as we serve Christ together.
In your brief time as our pastor, what have you learned, or what are you learning as a leader, first-time pastor?
I think one of the most valuable lessons I've learned early on is practice the pause. There was a situation where I came here and a lot of things happened organically. There wasn't a lot of organization, a lot of people really functioning independently and doing their own thing. And decisions were being made very, very early on without me knowing about it. And I'm like, I don't need to control every decision. That's not what I'm saying, but I do need to know about them. We need to work together. And so there was one thing that happened in particular that was a big boundaries violation for me, and those boundaries are important to me. And I was pretty upset, and I started drafting an email. And then I thought about that email, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna sleep on this tonight. Never hit send when you're mad. That's the other lesson. Never hit send when you're angry. And so I ended up saying, okay, the next morning, let me run this by another pastor.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to her and said, hey, what do you think about this? And she says, in a nice way, she said, yeah, if you want that to blow up in your face, go ahead and send that. I'm like, well, how about I don't send that then? So what I ended up doing instead is I took another day to pause, take a breath, and then I actually just spoke with the person and said, you know, when you did this, this is what happened. And actually that person and I are developing a very good working relationship together because I practiced the pause. And that, I think, is what comes from being emotionally intelligent. I realized that I was angry because my boundaries had been violated, and when really I had to look at the big picture of what is in the best interest of this congregation. And that is something that I've learned here, and it's been a great tool for me in the time that I've been here so far.
Practice the pause.
Practice the pause.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, what are your leadership goals at All Saints Lutheran Church for the future, going forward?
One of the major goals that we have is congregational growth.
Yeah.
And of course that's the goal of every congregation, most congregations, but we started having a decline in our numbers as a congregation toward the end of our founding pastor's term. He was here for almost 32 years.
Yeah.
Actually, he was here for over 32 years as a pastor, and that's a very long time for any pastor to be in one place. And the membership started declining significantly toward the end of his term. And then we had another pastor come in, Pastor Josh. COVID hit, we had more numbers, decreasing. And then we were able to sustain it through the leadership of people like Pastor Ed and Deacon Connie.
Yeah.
We're able to sustain the membership. And now, big part of my goal is to help the congregation to grow and to flourish. And we're starting to see some signs in that even in these early months. Our attendance had went from being about 50 to 55 on a Sunday to this last Sunday we had 84.
Oh, yeah.
And that was on a normal Sunday.
Yeah.
But okay, then the question is, how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that's very important is connection with the people in the congregation and connection with the pastor. So we can do that. Another thing that's very important, in my opinion, to congregational growth is welcoming.
Yeah. That
people feel welcomed and valued.
Mm.
And then another piece is, what is the worship experience like? Is the music of a quality that people really feel like they're being fed? Are we preaching the gospel in a context that people can relate to?
Mm.
In their time, it's like it's not only the gospel, but it's the gospel for us.
Yeah.
How can we relate to the gospel? And also just to make sure that people, again, I said it earlier, but I think the important thing is that they feel valued and they feel appreciated. And I just got finished writing some welcome and thank you cards for visiting here and sent those out. So that's a big goal. The other goal, Steve, is systems building. And that is, we have, some teams that are functioning right now, and they function well. There are some teams that aren't really functioning. But to build those systems and those team systems so that the work of running the congregation doesn't all fall on the pastor.
Right.
But you have groups of people who are really helping to continue the day-to-day and week-to-week and year-to-year functioning of the church, and just running things up through the pastor, keeping you informed, keeping me informed. But I allow things to do, the big important thing that I learned is I can't control everything, because nothing good comes of that except exhaustion, and that's not good. Yeah, so burnout and exhaustion, don't want to go.
No, we don't want that to be your future. No, sir.
Not there.
Finally, is there a leadership resource that you would recommend?
Yeah, there are plenty of them out there. So, part of my leadership training came from my time in the Army. I had some real formal leadership training there. And some of that style works really well in this context. Some of it won't work well at all. It was a very authoritative style of leadership. My style of leadership now is more delegative and participative. So I like to have hands-on participative leadership, leading by example, and also to be able to delegate things to people. To say, hey, this is my vision, this is what I'm looking for, now you take it and run with it and make it yours. And then another leadership resource I have, and I did this in my own leadership, and I'll show you here, and this is Leadership on the Line, Staying Alive Through the Dangers of Change. And it was a revelation to me when I covered this in
Really?
Leadership class with Dwight Shiley, who was our professor up there of leadership at Luther. I'm just gonna give you a few nuggets here.
Yeah, please.
On one page it says, "No one can accomplish anything of significance alone." And then another piece here is, leadership requires disturbing people, but at a rate they can absorb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then let me just see if I can find anything else here that jumps out to me. Yeah. It's talking about taking the high view of leadership. So looking at, kind of visualizing it from above, viewing leadership from the balcony. And it says, this is a critical point. When you observe from the balcony, you must see yourself as well as the other participants. Perhaps this is the hardest task of all, to see yourself objectively. And there are just, this book is full of them. This is a book that I wish I had when I was leading change in organizations. I wish I had had this book, because it felt like there were chapters that were describing me back then. You know, I keep working and working and working, and I walk in and I leave, and I'm dealing with these meetings and this meeting, and I felt like I haven't accomplished anything at the end of the day. And so that was, one thing I said, wow, yeah, I wish I had that at that time. So I would recommend that. Heifetz and Linsky, Leadership on the Line, Staying Alive Through the Dangers of Change.
Well, I'm glad you have that resource now, and I'm glad that we have you here at All Saints. Thank you very much, Pastor Brett, for your time.
Thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being here, and God bless you. I'm so proud of you on your journey.